I hope you are feeling fresh because today I've got someone from Fresh Accounting, the founder of Fresh Accounting. It is we can say a global accounting firm with its offices in Singapore, Hong Kong, Australia, and in Nepal. So let me welcome our special guest, Paul Gardner. Paul, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Sushil. It's so nice to be here. So yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much. So we have, made this plan of having this podcast for quite a long time now. And
6 months?
Yeah, 6 months and maybe more. And I think it ended up being quite nice because we were first planning on doing it remotely, but now we are here in Nepal, and it's far more better than doing it remotely because we can now interact with each other on live basis and also understand what sort of person we are, right?
We are.
So that's quite nice. Like I said, you are a global citizen as well. You are, you are, from England, then South Africa. You have been moving around Hong Kong, Singapore. So I think let's start from the beginning because this is an accounting podcast, and we will be talking about where did your professional journey start?
My father's a retired architect now. So growing up in South Africa and Zimbabwe as a child,
Right.
I think officially back to England when I was 10 years old. Schooled in London, left school at 17, started working internships when I was 17, and my first job at the age of 18. So working as an in-house accountant for a TV channel.
Right.
That then led to me working in a group of radio stations, a PR company, and I think by 2000 working in what was new media. So we now call it tech or e-commerce, but over 20 years ago, the internet was new media. So I had this ability to study from the age of 18, what was an equivalent to a degree in accounting.
Right.
I took my time to do that over several years of studying in the evenings after work, and always had really supportive employers who would sponsor me to do that.
Right.
I had this option to then look at having some exemptions from SEMA and ACCA.
Right.
So I had this choice of which one should I do, and I chose to study SEMA. I loved this sort of thought, which was accounting is not just numbers,
Right.
it's the storytelling. And sort of working in small finance teams to larger finance teams, just this ability to see a set of numbers. What are we doing? What do they mean? And then how do we explain these to non-financial people? So my 20s was a variety of roles that I've worked across, in-house accounting positions, throughout to my early 30s. I guess in my 30s it was more business startups, business turnarounds, some implementing systems.
Right.
My title was never quite related to the role I had, so I might be a finance manager. However, I was producing board packs, attending board meetings, helping the founders of a business or a startup raising capital. So I always had this ability to see a bigger picture, but not necessarily being a finance director or CFO.
The other day I had a group CFO from Nepal in the podcast, and he was also talking about the financial role of an accountant now being more than just accounting and being in a strategy position, giving strategic advice to higher ups. So this has been an evolving concept, and now we are just looking at it. That strategy has been now integral part of accounting and finance role, but you were giving a strategic advice from the beginning.
And I think part of this was always being asked for my opinion.
Right.
So rather than actually saying I'm giving advice, it was always, here are the numbers, the storytelling, and then actually, Paul, what's your opinion? So that ability to communicate and then being asked, what do I think?
Right.
Then founders or business owners would then be able to make decisions based on what they see, but also having that ability just to give some insight and people actually listening to me was very important. And interestingly, like CFO, we're still trying to sometimes understand what is a CFO. Is it Chief Financial Officer? Quite often in multinational firms, it's now called Chief Future Officer. So you always have to look to the future for the multinational. And then if you're a CFO of an SME, it's normally Chief Fixing Officer. So you're fixing the problems from the past so that you can move forward and then become the Chief Future Officer.
And now I think we have also another acronym that has been associated with the CFOs, now CVOs in vogue, right? So Chief Value Officer, what value you are adding to the company rather than just financial aspects of things. So you are doing these as in-house accountant finance roles in UK.
Yep.
Then after that, what happened?
I came out to Hong Kong in 2012 to see friends. So my first time to Asia. I also visited Singapore that year. In 2013, I started to think about working overseas. Family and friends would always know me well, where I would say, I want to do something. I always have a plan to do something. I want to be a production accountant for a James Bond movie.
Right.
I want to go and work for a circus, Cirque du Soleil, a French-Canadian circus. And I'd always say I want to do something, probably never do it.
Right.
When I then thought of working in Asia, the option was that Asia's quite close to home, but not too far, such as Australia or New Zealand.
Right.
I just made that decision when I knew that I had friends in Asia, especially in Hong Kong. I decided that Hong Kong would be a good option to perhaps move to. And I thought with my father as an architect, he worked across many countries in his younger years, took us as a family to Zimbabwe, to South Africa, that if he can do it, why can't I?
Right.
But I realized it wouldn't be about the power of Google, Googling jobs and applying online and remote interviews. I knew I actually had to be in the city to do that. I chose Hong Kong over Singapore because it's a bigger city, so a larger population, more SMEs, which meant more opportunity perhaps.
Right.
So I arrived in Hong Kong on a one-way ticket in January 2014 to look for a job.
Right.
Had several interviews, met some really interesting SMEs, some CFOs who also needed some additional help. And I think again, because I've never had CFO in my title, whatever somebody wanted me for, it was very much, I can do that.
Right.
So businesses might want bookkeeping, cash flow, simple accounting, implementing Xero, which back then wasn't very popular, it's still a young software.
Right.
I can do that. So Fresh Accounting was established early 2014 as an interim temporary solution whilst I was looking for a job.
Right.
And that was an ability to help and support a CFO and a small number of clients that actually were in need of some help at the time.
You went to Hong Kong for looking for a job, but you ended up establishing your firm and then helping other companies with their whatever, from bookkeeping to financial consulting.
Correct. And I think actually when I look back at that time in 2014, I always, to this day, and with a team dinner last night, I came to Hong Kong looking for a job. Fresh Accounting was this sort of temporary solution. So 10 years later, you could say I'm still looking for a job. But Fresh Accounting has grown into a regional business, and Hong Kong, Singapore, Nepal, and now Australia this year. It feels global. We think global. We're certainly a regional firm, but it's really grown, and I guess now it is my full-time job.
Even after 10 years, you're still, you didn't have the clear idea that Fresh Accounting, I'll do whatever I want to do with Fresh Accounting. You wanted to do something else still.
I think after the first year, we were really fortunate to have, certainly within the Hong Kong business, that we found some incredible Hong Kong talent who were willing to join Fresh Accounting, which was a startup, so bootstrapped. And the first people to join really helped make that decision for me to build Fresh. So I'd always joke about Fresh being this temporary solution as I look for a job. I think Fresh has just continued to build and evolve around us. Very fortunate, very lucky to see how it's grown. I think what started in Hong Kong, we saw it as a Hong Kong business. But certainly in Asia, Hong Kong and Singapore are both unique cities in Asia. But actually we always saw the bigger picture. So it's not just Hong Kong, we have to think about Singapore as well. A lot of the early clients that we worked with could be recruitment agencies, media companies, were actually Hong Kong and Singapore. So we found this opportunity to support clients to begin with in Hong Kong, and that took us to Singapore in 2016. So we always wanted Fresh to look bigger than it was, and actually how do we build that and grow? And I feel that the client base that we have, I would say just under 50% of our clients are in both cities. So that really gives us a unique position to support clients as an SME, understanding SMEs, to support them out of Hong Kong and Singapore. And quite interestingly, quite often a business that might start in Singapore or in Hong Kong, they also will have growth plans to look beyond the home city.
Right.
And then that will take them maybe to Australia, to the UK, to the US.
Right.
So I feel that whatever happens, the decision is made somewhere in Asia.
Right.
And then actually we can support the business owner, the founder, the management team with the decisions that they make. So as their businesses grow, we're growing with them.
Right. So wherever your clients are going, you are also going with them.
Yes.
Right.
Try not to have offices everywhere they are. I think that would be too much for now. But I think where we focus is like that Asia hub, I think that was a good decision to sort of look beyond that, not just being one tier 1 city, but to have 2 tier 1 cities and actually be able to punch above our weight.
Right. So what sort of work you are focused on right now with Fresh Accounting?
There are 3 core services. I would say grown-up accounting for growing up businesses. So we always try to lose the word bookkeeping. That sort of accounting then sort of leads to management accounting, month-end closing. That leads to the value-add services of financial control, financial director, and CFO, as we talked about earlier.
Right.
And the third service is digital transformation. So accountants are very good at using systems.
Right.
But sometimes changing systems or changing processes, they're not as strong at that.
Right.
So we help clients upgrade to cloud-based solutions. It could be a business that's just in one city. It could be in multiple cities or have multiple businesses. So we see a lot of our clients coming off MYOB, QuickBooks, Tally, Excel to Xero. But we also see clients moving sideways or downgrading from NetSuite, Microsoft Dynamics, Deltek, a large US software, and SAP to Xero.
Right.
So that digital transformation piece actually then sometimes as a one-off project then leads to us helping clients take on some accounting work or adding some of the value services such as financial control to CFO.
We had this conversation earlier, but it was quite interesting to know that people are moving from big ERP systems to Xero. So let's also talk about Xero. How easy or useful is getting out of those big clunky ERP systems and Xero, and why are people preferring Xero over those type of systems?
I think in Asia, quite often businesses start off with a plan and they grow and they risk and taking risks and making quick decisions. What I see is that quite often as businesses grow, they raise capital. And perhaps, I don't want to mention COVID, but we will, but before COVID, it was very easy for businesses in Asia to raise finance and raise capital. I think it's been a little harder, but that opportunity is now coming back. What we see is that quite often businesses might employ a CFO, and the CFO will say, right, we're a regional business, we have multi-companies, we need to upgrade our software and we need to use a large ERP.
Right.
The problem with that is implementing a large ERP is expensive.
Right.
It's time consuming. It requires a real deep understanding internally of your system process and workflows. And it's not cheap to implement. And not only that, there's the cost of maintaining it. And then you also have to upskill your finance team to be able to know how to use it. I think where Xero comes in, that do you need to have an ERP system now? And really evaluate where you've got working capital constraints. What do you need? Do you need big system ERP now?
Right.
Or can something else work? And it could be a Sage, a QuickBooks, MYOB. We choose to use Xero. Actually, Xero's ability to have the efficiencies, like bank feeds, for example.
Right.
In Asia, bank feeds with HSBC out of Hong Kong regionally, and DBS out of Singapore regionally. This ability is that Xero can connect to bank accounts in Asia. Not only that, this ability to be able to use Xero across, to use Xero anytime, anywhere, as it's cloud-based, I think also helps.
Right.
The ability then to look at that entire Xero ecosystem of different softwares, whether it's expense management, reporting, sales management, inventory management, point of sale, project management. There is this entire ecosystem that has been built around Xero, with Xero, to actually allow clients to do more with less.
Right.
And I think for a lot of businesses that we've worked with and helped out of Asia, we can actually see how businesses can grow and scale more effectively, cost efficiently, by using softwares that don't necessarily have to cost a significant amount of money.
Right.
The other part that we spoke about earlier was also we've seen some clients develop their own bespoke systems internally.
Yeah.
And actually, Xero has an open API. So quite often you can see clients build that API connection with their own bespoke systems that can connect to Xero. So ERPs are very good in large multinational firms. But I feel with SMEs, if we look at how Xero can work as a simplified accounting system that we then plug into inventory management or point of sale or project management, and then if you're running multi businesses, there's an entire ecosystem of reporting software such as Spotlight reporting, Translucent, Sift Analytics, Fathom. There's this opportunity to be able to build reporting software on top of that. So Xero actually can allow businesses to scale faster and quicker without finance having to be using expensive softwares to grow.
What I also find here in Nepal is that when you are small, you do with accounting softwares. When you are in this phase of growing, there's nothing in between, right?
Correct.
Just accounting software, or you go for ERP. So people try to go to ERPs, and when they move to ERPs, ERP comes as a whole chunk. When you need, that's not the system. Everything is there, and so the system is also slow because it has to process everything. If you need project management, you have Xero in the system. If you need project management, you can add in HR systems, payment systems. When you need, you can just plug in, and you do not need an entire new systems. You have already been used to the system, Xero system, which is quite efficient and smooth, and then you plug in other systems, and you have in essence an ERP already. Correct. There.
Xero as an accounting software was designed in the cloud, not as a desktop solution.
Right.
So one of the things that for clients in the very early days of fresh accounting that we saw was clients' accounts were never maintained or kept up to date.
Right.
They would be done ad hoc whenever someone would chase. When we saw Xero being implemented, there's a transparency and accountability because business owners of an SME, of a small business, can actually log in and see what's happening in Xero. They could see when the bank was last reconciled. They can see what's still outstanding in their receivables, perhaps payables, what they still need to pay. So actually, we found Xero in the early days of fresh accounting gave business owners transparency, so they could see what was happening or not happening, and then accountability of finance teams, internal, external, of what they're doing or not doing. And then the question is not when is the bank last reconciled, it's because you can see that in Xero. The question is, are we chasing our receivables? How quickly can we get the cash coming in? So the questions become quite different. Rather than asking someone, have you done something? The business owner can see it. And of course, as a larger business, where you have multi-entities, you have a CFO, the business owner doesn't need to have access to Xero. But the CFO, the finance director, someone leading the finance team will have access. And again, there's that ability just, I think, to have transparency and accountability, which up until recently has been lacking in our industry.
One thing I also like about the Xero software is that for an SME, the day-to-day reporting, small reportings, what your cash flow is doing, it's already integrated into Xero. So you do not have to get back to your bookkeeper or accountant or CFO to see what you are doing currently. If you need further reporting, there's always you do need to check with your accountant, but with simple day-to-day activities, what's happening, the payments are also being automatically checked whether or not we are following up with the invoices. So that's what is quite nice about that.
Yeah, and also something else that's very refreshing is that uploading documents into Xero. So quite often we see clients, like in Hong Kong, you have to maintain accounting records for 7 years. So we often see new clients coming to us, or older established clients, with accounting records that have been in a filing cabinet for 7 years. So actually, we can actually store accounting records in Xero. We don't have to keep paper copies. I think that's actually changed the way we do things. So if we're looking at the last, if there's something we're not sure of, we can actually log into Xero and see that. Also, if you're sending invoices to clients, this ability is, rather than the old days, creating an invoice, let's say in an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document, saving it as a PDF, asking your accountant to upload it into another system, and then emailing that PDF to your customer.
Right.
Actually, everything is done in Xero and can be emailed out of Xero.
Right.
And again, the larger the project, the bigger the customer or the invoice, you can upload the contract as well. So you can send all documentation inside.
Right.
And I just feel that SMEs can do, it just allows SMEs to do more with less.
Right.
And you can see how SMEs, such as Fresh, we can scale quickly and grow without having to spend significant amounts of money on investing in accounting software. So even for us, we continue to use Xero for our businesses. So actually, we can constantly see what's happening. Our growing pains are that obviously we have cash in different countries and different bank accounts. We have receivables in different countries. But even on a monthly basis, we can use a reporting solution and do consolidated reporting. And then we have those snapshots of an accurate snapshot of where we are at any point in time, which I really also feel helps us.
Right. And also one of the advantages of cloud accounting softwares is that now your accountants can be anywhere, right?
Anywhere, anytime.
Yeah, anywhere, anytime, and you can be always in contact with them. Your bookkeeper, you may be someplace in Singapore or Australia or Hong Kong, and your bookkeeper or your accountant might be in completely different place in the world. So you understand where I'm going with this, right? You have been in Hong Kong, you are in Singapore, and now you are in Nepal. Not now, you have been in Nepal for quite a long time. But when did you start thinking about coming to Nepal, and what drive that decision?
We can see that the challenge in our industry has been evident for some time, where as accountants retire,
right,
there's just not as many young people coming into the profession in the developed world.
Right.
We can see the shortage of accountants in Hong Kong and Singapore. I can see that in the UK and in Australia as well. During COVID, we saw some of the team leaving. It was hard to replace in Hong Kong and Singapore, and there were some challenges.
Right.
But what we wanted was we knew we had to grow. We were growing. We could see more clients coming to Fresh for help. The ability for Fresh is to find clients that we want to work with. So I think that the secret is find clients you like,
right,
find clients you want to work with that you know you can help. So we'd always say yes, and then we find out how to solve that problem after. So we could see we were growing during COVID and clients needed more help, and that moved to digitalization, to cloud accounting. So we had an issue where we needed to recruit. We've had clients that we've worked with out of Nepal.
Right.
Businesses are Hong Kong, Singapore, UK based, that have run centralized teams in Kathmandu, in IT, admin and accounting.
Right.
So we were looking at how can we find people to recruit and tap into friends of Fresh. So we explored countries such as Philippines, India, Malaysia.
Right.
But actually the conversations we had at the very beginning were all here in Nepal, talking to clients about how do they do what they do in Nepal? How can we build a business here?
Right.
And one client's finance team were incredibly helpful. They were able to provide the insights from anything from market salaries, market rates, ACCA, what we'd need to do to set up a business here.
Right.
So late 2000, we had this conversation in summer of 2021.
Right.
And our first team member joined in August 2021. And the ability that a client gave us some office space to use, and then the first team member joined, Najjar joined, and then this ability to just work together and see how we can do something. But we also knew that the client feedback, that they could see things were being done quickly by Fresh. Right. We also knew that within, I would say, a month, 2 months at the most, that we were onto a winner. Right. So we then looked at how can we recruit this, because it can't be one person and a laptop using a client's office. So we were lucky to find two other members, Sunita and Rohan, who both willingly joined Fresh in that same year. And then the business by the end of 21 grew to three people. Right. We've run the business as it was an outsourcing model where the team were part of Fresh Accounting, but we never had a legal entity here. And that legal entity was established in early this year, 2024. So we were able to say that we really wanted to have our own legal entity, which the team had agreed with. Right. And we were able to establish Fresh Accounting PVT Ltd here. And the team during 2023 and 24 have grown to a team of 6. Renu Singarup Babek, who's helping to lead the team. That team has grown, and what we've always wanted is it couldn't just be 1 or 2 people. This had to be a community, a group of people that could work together, learn together. We're very encouraging as well to don't be afraid to make mistakes. We learn from mistakes. One of the things we've also learned is in Hong Kong, where the first language is Cantonese and English is widely spoken, to then also here in Nepal, where Nepalese is the primary language and English is secondary. So we're sort of learning how to build teams that can collaborate, where English isn't always the first language, but seeing how the teams can work together and build these sort of meaningful connections with each other and understand problems and solve them, I think has really allowed us to invest into Kathmandu. And we really wanted it to be a bigger business to begin with. And actually, we take care of clients internally with our own internal team.
I visited your office, and when I entered,
I was creating some mayhem this morning. Sorry.
No, it was not mayhem actually. The atmosphere, the ambience, quite very energetic, and there was a smile everywhere. So I think you have created a good working environment for these accountants here in Nepal. And what has been your experience so far with the team you have been working for?
Overwhelmingly positive. I think quite often in larger firms, larger firms recruit based on experience. Number of years experience, position or level, and all roles will go through HR first. I think for SMEs or accounting firms, the smaller we are, we have to look at different criteria. So yes, we might want someone with several years experience, a certain qualification. I feel that Fresh has been built on a culture. It's the willingness or enthusiasm of the team. It's not often, do they have several years experience? Do they have a skill set that we need to have? It's the energy that they bring that creates the culture that we have in Fresh Accounting. I think what's important is that in Nepal, there is this growing market of young superstar accountants, which is refreshing. It's refreshing to see that there are so many younger generation learning accounting and going into the industry. So we as business owners have a responsibility as well. But I feel that even when we recruit here, we're looking, yes, there must be an experience, perhaps some accounting experience, some knowledge. But at the same time, we're looking at perhaps other strengths that they have. So it could be communication skills, the ability to communicate in an interview. Whenever we interview in Hong Kong and Singapore, the culture is very different because in Nepal, I've never been called sir so many times in an interview. So when we speak to a candidate, it's like, no, just call me Paul. And by the second, question, they're calling me Paul already. So that ability where someone might be able to understand myself or my business partner, Nick, is really important, that actually the communication. So I think we recruit, it's normally based on a lot more than just the experience that they have, but it's also how can we potentially develop this person into a role. And I think the longer team members are around, they also create roles for themselves.
And are you also now looking to, increase the size of your team here in Nepal?
Oh, we ought to have at least 100 people by the end of the year. No. Yes, I think our growth is organic. We've started with 1 person in 2021, and we now have a team of 6. So that could be a small number to some people, and that's a big number to others. But we would like to grow it, because I think with the culture that we have in the existing team, we want to see the team grow into new roles that we can create. And then the idea to bring other people in that can learn from the existing team that we have. So we continue, therefore, as we were saying earlier, 10 years of building Fresh Accounting. There's still a long way to go. There's still a lot of hard work. We can't take our foot off the brake. So we have to continue to look at the bigger picture. So win more clients that we know we can help and work with, which then allows us to look at how we can grow teams in Hong Kong, Singapore, Nepal, and of course eventually Australia perhaps.
It's quite great to see someone like Fresh Accounting coming in Nepal and growing year after year, and also developing their team here in Nepal. As you know, we are also trying to do bridge that gap. Like you said, you found it difficult to recruit in Hong Kong, in Singapore, and also maybe now when you are working in Australia. And what the problem here in Nepal is that now Nepalese accountants want to go abroad and work for those companies there. So there's this, a gap in the market where there are not enough accountants in the Western world, and the Nepalese accountants are seeking for global exposures and global experiences, right? And so they're traveling to those countries, migrating to those countries and doing the work there. But now cloud accounting has helped them, be here in Nepal and work for accounting firms or companies abroad. And so we are also trying to bridge that gap, be a bridge where the accounting firms that are finding it hard to, recruit people, and Nepalese accountants who are seeking that exposure, that that job opportunities. We can connect those, and hearing your experience and also your positive experience gives us a boost here.
And I think I see myself when I left London to come to Hong Kong on a one-way ticket. That ticket was using my frequent flyer miles, so the ticket didn't cost me anything. So again, as an accountant, I was quite sensible and with money, limited reserves. So I arrived in Asia as a foreigner, I'm a migrant to look for a job. I did not expect to find a job easily. I didn't expect to start this business either. One of the things I can see, and certainly in Nepal, is that for a lot of people leaving Nepal for opportunities overseas, accounting now, maybe healthcare, F&B, there's always a certain element that the grass is greener, that there's other opportunities for people to leave Nepal and work overseas. And then sending money back home to parents, coming back once a year, every 2 years to see family. I think that challenge is that the grass is always greener. Taxes are higher in other countries, the cost of living is higher, and sometimes it's not always as fulfilling or what you expect it to be. I think what's really important as well is that when we look at Nepal, and what we were talking about earlier, is how do we build businesses in Nepal, in Kathmandu, that can take care of people, build careers, develop careers, perhaps give people the opportunity to eventually move within the business and work overseas within fresh in Hong Kong or Singapore. How do we allow people to develop careers without having this need or desire to go and work overseas because they have to, because that's the way of earning more money? So I think it's trying to really put Nepal on the map, to actually allow international businesses to see the opportunities here to tap into skilled labor, and actually build businesses, whether it's establishing their own entities through to actually finding really talented accounting firms such as what you've been building, to actually bring in outsourcing, and having the peace of mind that you can rely on high quality service providers such as what you've been building over the past years since COVID. I think trying to ensure that the local Nepalese population have the opportunities in here, and it's not about trying to leave to find an opportunity elsewhere.
Now from Nepal, let's talk about Australia, because you have now recently expanded to Australia as well. When did you start Australia, and what was the decision? Why did you move to Australia?
We were speaking with some lawyers last year, and then how do you define fresh accounting? So fresh accounting is it's a go-to Xero accounting partner across Asia. If you add in Australia, you can just add the extra word. We are now a must or a go-to Xero accounting partner across Asia Pacific. My partner Nick has spent 12 years in Brisbane, so we've had a lot of connections to Australia. Quite a few of our clients out of Hong Kong and Singapore are Australian, and they have business interests in Australia. So quite often we've been hearing some Australian clients talking about the cost of doing business in Australia is more expensive. Local firms are struggling to recruit, so fees just go up. Doesn't always mean the service improves. It's just the cost of doing business has increased. So Nick and I were chatting and saying, wouldn't it be good if we could look at how do we establish an Australia business and how do we help? When we looked at establishing fresh accounting, Nick and I agreed to, as we look at the map of Australia, we agreed to establish fresh accounting in Australia, in Queensland, so in Brisbane. And that was, again, in part Nick growing up and having his 12 years in Brisbane, so understanding that part of the world more than perhaps Sydney or Melbourne. But also our clients, though in Australia, seem to have a lot more businesses in and around Queensland.
Right.
So that gave us an opportunity to sort of think the bigger picture, like what is fresh accounting?
Right.
So as I'll correct you from earlier when you mentioned Hong Kong, Singapore, Australia, Nepal.
Right.
We've always led the way to say, for now, the offices are based on the age or when the year they were established. So Hong Kong, Singapore, Nepal, Australia. As we add more businesses, I might panic and we might have to do it alphabetically. I'm not sure. But I think for us, the opportunity to look at Australia as a longer term solution to potentially help Australia-based clients in Asia in Australia is going to be really important. And then potentially as well for the team, if any of the team want to build their careers overseas, we can always look at sending someone from within Fresh to Australia one day. And again, the idea is trying to build a business that's bigger than its founder or founders, and then also giving the team opportunities that if they really want to work elsewhere within the group, we're building opportunities to sort of allow for some of the team to travel within the businesses and perhaps relocate at some point in the future. So again, looking at the bigger picture.
So the Australian firm, does it work independently or has the support, come from Asia?
All the support for now comes from Asia. So the business was established in, I think, April or May this year. We're just in the process of having our bank account as well, which is much easier than getting a bank account in Nepal.
Right.
But it's still brand new. So we haven't thought too much about it. I think we will give some more thought to it maybe early next year. But it also, I feel confident knowing that where Hong Kong and Singapore are running well, we have Nepal, which is just, again, this incredible opportunity that came to us to actually build our support team here.
Right.
Actually, as we think of Australia, and as I said earlier, we find clients, if we know we can help and we want to work and we like the client, we'll say yes and find a solution of how to make it work. So I think Australia, as we think more around our digital footprint, we know Australia-based clients will find us, perhaps with Asia interests. So again, it allows us to build even a bigger footprint where we can service clients that are Hong Kong, Singapore, and Australia, which means we can do more.
It's already been 7 or 8 years that you are here in Nepal and you are trying to expand more here in Nepal, and you have had very good experience. And so that is what we are also trying to do. We are trying to connect the Nepali accounting community with the outside world to look at Nepal as a possible place where you can find qualified, energetic, youthful accountants who are ready to work, have good work ethic, and also have good English as communications. So there's great opportunities here, and accounting firms looking to hire or recruit, I think Nepal can be a very viable option.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what was very important for us was always to have an office where people could come to. And so you actually have that ability to build a community of accountants sitting in an office, working together, learning. I think that was very important. I think from conversations I have with accounting firms and overseas, and there's many, quite often they might just look online and find one person who's working from home to get some of the work done. That's absolutely fine. But I think depending on the size of the accounting firm overseas and what they're looking for, I think actually tapping into a professional services firm that actually has an office, that has a team, that has a structure, that has a system and processes is really, really important. Because again, when you're thinking of outsourcing, when you're thinking of what we're doing with offshoring or building our own office, I think actually building the same culture, the same mindset is really important. So yes, if you just need one person for 4 hours a week, you can find someone online. But I think tapping into professional service providers is important, because then someone is in an office, there's training, there's development, this ability that if you're making mistakes, someone else more senior is helping to train and develop that team. So I think, again, accounting firms shouldn't be afraid to look at outsourcing, but I also think they should see it as an opportunity to service even more clients than they have, so that they can grow their own firms, but then actually building that talent overseas, here in Nepal, for example. But also, it's not just about the simplified bookkeeping, and we call it grown-up accounting. Actually, there is a lot more that can be done here from financial management, reporting, financial control, costing, profitability analysis. So actually, when you think about outsourcing, offshoring, actually, it's a full service suite that can be offered, and you can build teams that can live and breathe the clients, understand what the client needs are, and actually support. So there is a lot that can be done here in Kathmandu, in Nepal.
Right. And with the growing market here, the growing number of population, as you also know that Nepal is primarily a young country in the terms that the large amount of population, a large portion of population is young and seeking opportunities and quite energetic and very driven to work and be useful.
One of the things we found when we're interviewing candidates here in Nepal, interviews are two-way.
Right.
So it's for us as an employer to see if we employed a candidate, if this candidate's going to be good, if this candidate can grow, is this a candidate suitable for fresh accounting?
Right.
But on the other side, for the candidates, they also have to remember that this is their interview to see, hey, is this company going to be good to work with? Are they going to take care of me? Can I see career progression? So what we found is sometimes when we've been interviewing, because we're a team of 25 people in the group, that we're not always fast to respond to interviews. So we might interview someone on a Monday, and by a Friday we make a decision for a second interview, by which point the candidate's already taken another job offer, which I think is fine. But I think also the Nepal talent should also appreciate that actually there's plenty of opportunities. There are opportunities for them, so they need to think about how their employer can help them grow, help them develop. And I think that's also very important, because if we can find, as an employer, if we find the right talent, we can grow incredible businesses with incredible teams and build brilliant people. And there is that opportunity for Nepal to really be on the international market and stand above its other peers in outsourcing, to really push above its weight. So I think as we think of candidates, again, be mindful. I know quite often you have to take the first job that comes, but I think for the young generation looking at their careers, just to remind themselves that the interview is also for them to decide whether or not this company is going to be good for them. So they don't have to have this constant career hopping and changing jobs every 6 months that we see sometimes on CVs.
Yes, because oftentimes people, do not look at career progressions, and accounting firms tend to be, they do not have a corporate structure like in companies where you start with junior accountant and you move on to become CFO, right? In accounting firms, there are career progressions, but because there are no too many hierarchies to be sort of, there may be those challenges to figure out.
And we're absolutely terrible with job titles. We're terrible with hierarchy. So we have like an invisible line. So we have roles, but it is a fairly flat structure where someone comes in as a consultant, a senior consultant. We call some of the longer serving team associates, which is absolutely terrible in a big firm's eyes, because associate's normally the junior member, but we see it as professional services being more senior. So yeah, we're in many ways, I don't want to be anti-hierarchy, but we have our own unique way of doing things, and I think that helps us find good talent, because again, if someone comes in and says they want to be a senior finance manager in 2 years' time, we know we don't have that title or that position. So actually we probably can't help that person. But if someone sort of comes in and then talks about they want, what they see themselves doing in 2 years without a title, then actually we can see how they're going to grow within the business. So again, it's interesting how we've built a fairly different accounting firm to other firms. That might change in the future, I don't know, hope not.
So I think this is the cue for the podcast to end, and thank you for being here. Thank you for providing me the time and opportunity with the limited number of days that you are here. Thank you very much, Paul, and good to see you, and maybe we'll again see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy that before we were talking about having this as a podcast over a Teams or Zoom, I'm happy just to be here, meet you in person and have this conversation, and I'm looking forward to the next one. We'll probably have to have more unique themes for each
Right.
chat now.
Right.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Namaste.